The hard problem of consciousness. Right now, as you watch this, something remarkable is happening. Light is hitting your eyes, signals are racing through your optic nerve, and somewhere in your brain, patterns of electrical activity are forming. Science can trace that entire process, step by step, neuron by neuron. But there's one thing science cannot explain. Why does it feel like anything at all? This is what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. And despite decades of extraordinary progress in neuroscience, it remains one of the most stubborn mysteries in all of science. Let's be clear about what makes this problem hard. We already understand a great deal about the brain. We know which regions light up when you see the color red. We know how memories form, how attention shifts, how decisions get made in measurable physical terms. This is what philosopher David Chalmers called the easy problems of consciousness. Not easy in any casual sense, but easy in principle, because they're questions about mechanism. Given enough time and research, we expect to answer them. The hard problem is different. It's not about mechanism. It's about experience itself. Here's the puzzle. You can describe every physical process involved in seeing red. The wavelength of light, the activation of cone cells, the neural firing patterns in the visual cortex. You can map all of it in exhaustive detail. And yet none of that explains why there is something it is like to see red. Why isn't all of this just happening in the dark, so to speak? Why does it come with an inner experience attached? This gap between physical description and subjective experience is called the explanatory gap. And it's not a gap we're slowly closing. It's a gap that seems to resist closing no matter how much we learn about the brain's machinery. Some scientists argue the hard problem is really an illusion, that once we fully understand the brain's information processing, the mystery will simply dissolve. Others argue the opposite, that consciousness may be a fundamental feature of reality, something that can't be reduced to physical processes at all, no matter how detailed our science becomes. Between these positions lies decades of unresolved debate involving neuroscientists, philosophers, and increasingly researchers working on artificial intelligence. And that's what makes this question urgent again. As AI systems become more sophisticated, capable of holding conversations, generating language that mimics understanding, even expressing something that looks like preference or discomfort, the hard problem stops being a purely academic puzzle. It becomes a practical one. If we can't fully explain why your brain produces subjective experience, how would we ever determine whether a machine does? This is the strange position we find ourselves in. We are the only beings we know of who ask this question, and we can't even answer it about ourselves. So the next time you glance at a sunset or feel the weight of a memory return unexpectedly, consider this. Science can tell you an extraordinary amount about what's happening in your brain in that moment, but it still cannot tell you why any of it feels like something. That gap between the physical and the experienced may be the deepest unanswered question in science today. And it's one we'll be returning to throughout this series as we look at consciousness, AI, and the strange boundary between mind and machine.